No, I can't believe this. The Democratic Socialists of America are bleeding activists because they support Hamas? Oh, boy. Yeah, let me tell you this, my friends. There are some accounts that I see on Twitter, on X, where they're just like a little too Israel gung-ho. And then there are people I see who are a little too anti-Israel, and I'm just like, oh, man. Hey, man, people have their derangement syndromes. It could be Trump. It could be Biden. I don't know, whatever. Tends to be Trump and tends to be Israel for some reason. We're having a conversation with Ian on the Members Only show, and he was saying that his concern was the Balfour Declaration, basically creating Israel as a colony and the funding of it and all that stuff. And I'm just like, please tell me more about these other countries that the U.S. is engaged in imperialism in. And he was like, I don't know any other ones. And I'm like, this is my point. My point is this. You're allowed to criticize Israel, and please do so. They should be criticized. And you're also allowed to defend them if you think they're doing things that are correct. I'm not saying not. I'm just saying when some people only care about Israel, either for or against it, I'm just like, a little weird. So now the DSA, the Democratic Socialists, are facing a financial crisis because perhaps people don't like it when you support terrorists. Now, I know a lot of these activists are like, Israel is the real terrorist. Dude, let me tell you how regular moderate people feel. They feel a variety of ways, but typically encircled around, hey, man, it's really bad that Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. I don't know a whole lot about the history of this country, but maybe don't do that. And I certainly have concerns about Israel bombing civilian areas, targeting Hamas, because Hamas uses human shields. But man, how do we stop it? I don't know. Perhaps the best solution is it's none of our business. Of course, you take a look at the history of the region. The U.S. is heavily involved in all this stuff. I just don't think regular people are going to get so deranged about all of this stuff, but this is what happens. The DSA comes out, and then regular people are just like, hey, man, I didn't become part of a mob to, target Jews, right? It's like that joke from, you ever see The Animal with Rob Schneider? And basically, long story short, bad things are happening. They think Rob Schneider is doing it. And then Rob's friend is a black guy, says, it was me who was doing that. And then like the angry mob with pitchforks go, whoa, I don't want to be part of a mob to go after a black guy. Like, hey, come on. And it's good. Funny jokes. This is what we're seeing now with all these DSA guys. Post-Millennial says, facing severe financial shortfalls, leaders of the Democratic Socialists of America are demanding staff cuts and layoffs, according to a new report. The New York Post revealed that the DSA, which has been leading protests against the Jewish state of Israel since the day after the deadly October 7th massacre by Hamas, is in a 7-figure hole. Bye-bye. According to a proposal by members of the DSA's National Political Committee that is affiliated with its Marxist Bread and Roses caucus, we will cut $500,000 from staff-related expenses. We will first ask for volunteers from both director level and bargaining unit staff to have their position cut and receive severance. If necessary, we will then explore initiating layoffs according to the DSA union's contract. No. I believe, here's how it should work. When you sign up for the DSA to become a member, the contract should read, we get 80% of your income forever, and you cannot break this contract. You can never leave. Why? Well, that's socialism, right? That's what you want. You want to opt into socialism, right? Well, in that system, the government takes your money, probably more than 80%, and you can never leave. So what gives you, DSA members, the right to leave? How could it be that a socialist organization is facing a financial shortfall? Well, as the saying goes, eventually you run out of other people's money. So that's just unfortunately the way it is. They go on to say, DSA members Alex Pelletieri and Christian Schall and Laura Wadlin wrote in the reduction recommendation, DSA is in a financial crisis and staff-related costs account for 58% of our total expenditures and 72% of our projected income. The current deficit will force us to make 7-figure budget cuts. This will require us to make painful decisions that will impact all levels of organization. Given our current financial state, we do not believe we can have a healthy, democratic, and effective organization while spending the amount we currently do on staff. No! They should be forced to work for free. Sign the contract, baby. I demand. You should demand. You must, when you're signing up for the DSA, pledge forever. And if at any point you refuse and don't give your income over, you give the DSA the right to put you in a gulag, to lock you in a cage, and to force you to engage in rock-breaking, back-breaking labor. How about that? What's that? Well, I'm sorry. Well, you don't want to sign such a contract? Well, then stop telling me that's how I should be living, you scumbags. 7-figure cuts if necessary. We will then explore initiating layoffs according to the DSA union's contract, be it resolved. The Personnel Committee will be responsible for determining the quantity and type of positions to be eligible for buyout or layoff, and they will assist with the logistics and a staff transition plan. According to the Post, DSA leaders are being blamed for the organization's financial crisis after they supported Hamas terrorists and have long supported anti-Semitic efforts such as the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel. Amanda Berman, founder and executive director of Zionists, a group representing liberal Jews who support Israel, told the outlet, DSA long ago fell into the trap of becoming so radical in the name of justice, they abandoned the mission of the progressive movement. Yes, I love about it. There are these people, you know what I really don't like? Derangement syndrome. If a person comes to me and says, Tim, I have concern that there are a lot of people who are Jewish who work in media. I'd say, tell me about it. What do you think? Why do you bring up such a thing? And we can have a conversation. If someone then said, there's just a lot of them and I feel like they're doing this, that, or otherwise, and I'd respond with, what about, the amount of this group in this area or Asians in Harvard? I'm not going to accept a race or ethnic argument as to the issues. I believe that if Harvard is 70% Asian, so be it. They're the people applying and getting in. Now, of course, if it came to a point where the dean of Harvard, the head institutions, all the donors were all, Chinese, I'd have questions about whether or not we had a problem with bias. I think it's also absolutely fair to ask the same thing when you have a historically white institution and lower rates than national average of various races. That being said, it doesn't mean the answer is to respond by saying we should just bring people in based on race. No. We can ask, hey, are there racist people here? Because we don't want that. There's not? No, we're good then. That's it. So if you have Asian staff and a mostly Asian institution, I ain't going to cry about it. Maybe we have concerns and we ask, show us how the hiring practice is done or the admissions practice. It's like, oh, okay, well, it just happens to be Asians who are getting in. I'm not going to cry about it. Same thing with Jews in media. My point with all of that, these people, they're so psychotically obsessed with their chosen group that they burn themselves to the ground. The joke I've often made is, my friends, do you want to figure out which political faction you belong to? New to the culture war? Why, all you have to do is decide which group you believe is responsible for all the world's wars. Which group do you believe is responsible for you having a hard time finding a job? Which group is responsible? You get the point. Occupy Wall Street. The 1%. They get us into the elites, the wealthy. They're the ones holding us back. They're the ones starting the wars. And you get white supremacists. They blame, well, I guess white supremacists could, depending on the faction, blame the Jews or blame black people or whatever. I don't know. The point is, it's funny to hear people say this. It's the Illuminati. They start the wars and they pick your faction, baby. All you got to do is determine which group you don't like, and then you can join up with whatever radical political faction you want. For the DSA, apparently, if you hate the Jews, you can join the DSA, but not for long because their rabid anti-Israel approach is costing them a lot of money. Let me say this about the Israel-Palestine stuff. I'm an American. Don't know, don't care. I don't know. Israel can defend itself. There's a conflict going on. It's a war. I'm not here to pick sides because I'm not Israeli or Palestinian. That being said, the zealous fervor over the issue makes me livid. When someone comes to me and they go, let me ask you about Israel, I'll say, okay. But I've had this conversation. I had this conversation with Ian. He's like, we're spending all this money supporting Israel, but why? It's a colony. And I was like, interesting. How do you feel about the other colonies we're supporting? Well, I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? If your concern genuinely is that the U.S. supports a colony state in Israel, then you should care about other colony states, right? You don't? Okay. The issue must be Israel. Yeah, it's a colony. Right. You only care about this. I think it's absurd. I think it's absurdity. I think people are weirdly obsessed with it. I think there's some kind of derangement attached to it. You can criticize them. Hamas is bad. Hamas should be stopped and destroyed. But it's just crazy to me how overly emotional people get about this one country and this one region. I'm just like, what is it? Rick and Morty made the joke about it. That was a good one. Anyway, they go on to say, she added that members admitted to bleeding activists and financial resources, and that after Hamas's brutal invasion of Israel on October 7th, DSA doubled down on their strategy of going deep and long on anti-Semitism, thinking it might get them out of the hole. Instead, this depraved idea dug them even deeper. Berman continued, true progressives, whether in the grassroots or in the political leadership, will continue rejecting this extremist group and its hateful ideas in the name of true justice and equity, including for Jewish Americans. I don't care what your background is. We're in the United States. So if you have concerns about foreign spending, I'm there with you. If you have concerns about racism and whatever and politics, man, let's have a conversation. But when you dedicate your entire personality on one specific foreign country, I don't care what that country is. I just think it's kind of weird. But you're allowed to do it. Just don't come and argue that I have to as well. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.